Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen, and today I am here with my February wrap-up, which is late, but I've been having like a very stressful beginning of March, so I just haven't been up to filming. So finally feeling like I can get this filmed. I read 23 books in the month of February, which is absolutely crazy, but it's 100% thanks to the booktube games, because it just encouraged me to read so much, because apparently I'm competitive as fuck. So there's that. uh, so the first book that I ended up reading in the month of February, I read this whole book during the month of February, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. This is the final book in the Throne of Glass series, and I gave it 5 out of 5. I loved it, and I'm so happy that I finally got around to reading this, because, yeah, it took me a while to get to it, but I got to it, loved it, and will miss these characters and this series. So, yeah. Don't really want to go into a whole lot of detail. Everyone knows what Throne of Glass is about. Anyways, if you haven't, I don't know where you've been the last like 7 years, because these books have blown up huge. The next book that I read was a reread for me, and it was the group book, and that was A Strange the Dreamer. This was the group book for Hogwarts, and again, 5 out of 5. Loved it just as much as I loved it the first time. Wanted to get around to reading Muse of Nightmares, but didn't get to it this month. So didn't get to it in February, so considering reading it during Sequelathon, so maybe we will do that. Yeah, this book was just amazing. Just like the first time I read it. I love Laszlo, I love Sarai, and the ending of this is just mind-blowing, and rereading this, I mean, I obviously knew how it was going to end, but like rereading it also showed me like the beginning, it just, I was like, how did this blow my mind the first time? Because the beginning tells you how it ends. So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to finally read Muse of Nightmares. Next up was another 5-star read. You guys, I started out really good in February. Anyways, it was Shades of Wicked by Janine Frost. I listened to this one on audiobook. This is the first book that tells Ian's story in the Night Huntress world, and I loved it. I just love Ian. He is such a great character, and I can't get enough of him, and I can't wait for the next book to come out. Thankfully, it's coming out in June, because I was really slow to get to read this. So it's coming out soon, and I can't wait. I'm going to be picking that up on audiobook, because I pretty much listen to all of these on audiobook, because Tevye Gilbert is an amazing audiobook narrator, and she just does such a wonderful job with this world. But yeah, loved it. And if you haven't read any of Janine Frost's Night Huntress books, go back to the beginning, start with book 1 with Cat and Bones, because you really need to know the characters to really appreciate Ian's story, because I started out hating Ian, and then I grew to love him, and now I just love him so much. So, yeah. The fourth book that I read in the month of February was After the War is Over by Jennifer Robson. This is the second book of like the 3-book companion books that follow the same sort of characters that I read the other 2 books in January. So this is the second book, because they're companions. I'd read them out of order because my library didn't have this one available at the time. This follows the brother of the main character of the first book, and the main character from the first book's best friend, who love each other but don't want to admit it. And it's just showing like the aftermath of like some of the the aftermath of what people went through after the war, where like he has PTSD, but like it wasn't like a thing back after the First World War. So people are just like, something's wrong with him. But like, she was a nurse, and she helps nurse him back to health, and yeah, things go from there. And I really enjoyed it. I give it 4 out of 5. Just really wonderful book. Really like Jennifer Robson's writing style, and I'm looking forward to reading more of her books in the future. I already picked one of her books up to read, and there's another one, I think, that I saw on Goodreads that I really want to read. So I'll have to look into that one as well. The next book that I read was Girl in a Bad Place by Caitlin Ward. This is a arc that I got like forever ago. Um, so I finally got around to reading this, and I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5. This is about a girl who basically falls in, like, her best friend falls in with a cult, or a commune is what they call themselves. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on, and it was a fairly like slow read. I was very frustrated with the characters a lot of the time, but I did like it overall, which is why I did give it a 3 out of 5. For some reason, I'm like oddly fascinated by like cults and stuff. I don't know. I'm weird. I know I'm weird, but it just like I like to know how they're thinking. And seeing her best friend like fall into like the Kool-Aid they're sipping is pretty interesting in this one. The ending is kind of what ruined it for me, because it went somewhere that I really wasn't expecting. But overall, it's a good book. Enjoyed it. So if you know any other books about cults, let me know, because it's just something that I enjoy reading. The next 3 books that I read were graphic novels, and it was Archie volumes 2, 3, and 4, from like the newer series that is by Mark Waid. There's different illustrators for each of these. I read these on my tablet and really enjoyed them. I gave them all a 4 out of 5 because, you know, they're just Archie, and I got what I really liked them. I got what I was expecting from them. Freaking cliffhanger after the 4th one, which was the last one I have, is killing me though, because I need to know what happens next. I need to know what happened to Betty and how Betty's gonna be, because yeah, I love Betty. I ship Betty and Archie because Veronica is just, you know, she could find somebody else. She doesn't need to come stealing Betty's boyfriend. I don't know. I just like Betty. I kind of thought that. I've always kind of thought that Veronica was like a spoiled brat. So, you know, it's Archie. Enjoyed it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, if you've ever read an Archie comic, it's basically what it was. So, yeah. The 9th book that I read was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I listened to this one on audio, and holy shit. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I knew going in that there was gruesome stuff in it, but I wasn't expecting as gruesome as I got. But yeah, that was messed up. Yeah. Basically, a young girl goes missing, and it reminds the main character of, or the main characters, there's two main characters, I think. I can't remember. It's been so long since I read it. I'm sorry. But it reminds them of like their sister going missing when they were younger, and just there's like a lot of similarities between the 2 girls, like their sister and this new girl that's gone missing. And yeah, it was just really interesting, really fucked up, but I enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. And I can't really go into a whole lot of detail because like I feel like you just have to go into it not knowing a whole lot because it's a thriller, but just it was good, and I'm glad I read it. And yeah, just really enjoying Karen Slaughter's writing. So the next thing I read was Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes, also by Karen Slaughter. I listened to that one on audio. I didn't realize it's just a novella that tells the story of their sister's last day, the day that their sister went missing. So basically it's just telling that story and showing what all she had going on. And yeah, it was good. I liked it. 4 out of 5 again, because, you know, it was just a really enjoyable audiobook to listen to. Next up, I read my most disappointing book of the month, and I don't know why. I'm really surprised because I don't know. I was hoping I would like this more than I did. It's My Life Undecided by Jessica Brody. I've had this on my shelf forever. I decided to pick this up because I was wanting to read a contemporary. This seemed like a pretty interesting premise. A girl realizes she makes really shitty decisions and decides to make a blog and get people to choose all of her decisions. And yeah, it was interesting, but like at the same time, she was an idiot. So I mean, I can see why she was making bad decisions because she was just dumb. Well, she wasn't dumb, but was trying too hard to fit in and not being true to herself, I guess, and not like giving. She was just following her best friend, basically her best friend from childhood, and doing whatever she said. But yeah, starts off pretty crazy, which is what hooked me in because like starts off with her being arrested. She's like 16, being arrested. Yeah, it was interesting, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It's fine though. The next book that I read was Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. I read this one on my tablet, so on ebook, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It is like another one along the lines of The Hate You Give. There's been a police shooting of an innocent teen, and yeah, basically it's what I was expecting, except it was very open-ended at the end. I can see why it was, but I kind of wish it was a little more close-ended. I don't know if you know what I mean. It follows Marvin Johnson, who is Tyler Johnson's twin brother. He's a nerd. He likes playing video games and just doesn't hang out with the same crowd as his brother. But yeah, his brother Tyler is shot by a police officer, and then there's just a whole lot that goes on. But I'm sure everybody knows what happens in those kind of situations. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 just because it was open-ended, and I didn't really want that for that book. So the next book I read was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, which I gave 5 out of 5 because it was Colleen Hoover, and I love Colleen Hoover. So this one is following a couple who's having like problems with their marriage because of struggling with infertility. And it's not something that I've ever had, like it's not something that I struggled with personally. We are fortunate that way. We have our 3 kids. We were fortunate. It wasn't a struggle, but I do know people that it has affected, and I felt like reading this was kind of give me a little bit of a glimpse into how their life could potentially be, because I do know that when a couple is struggling with infertility, that sometimes the relationships don't last through that. So it was interesting to read, and I'm glad I read it. Yeah, and I was just like in this mood when I read it that I found it especially good. The next book that I ended up reading was Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the second book in the Arc of the Scythe series, and yeah, I give it a 5 out of 5. I need the next book like last month because the ending of this was crazy, and like the things that happened in this were crazy, and it was just so much better than Scythe. So if you haven't read Scythe, it is a utopian world where death has basically been eradicated, like dying of natural causes has been eradicated. So like even like if you tried to kill yourself, you can be revived. So dying naturally is not a thing. So there are scythes, basically Grim Reapers. They don't like to be called Grim Reapers, and they're not allowed to wear black because they don't want that trope. They wear bright colors. So they choose who, like they kill people basically because, you know, population does need to be controlled. So it was really interesting, and yeah, it started off right where the last one ended, and it was just really good. Really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5. Need the next book because I need to know what's going to happen next, because that was just too much happened at the end there. It was crazy. So the next book I read was Perfect Girlfriend by Karen Hamilton. This is a thriller that follows a girl whose boyfriend has broken up with her, and she doesn't think that was how their relationship should have gone. So she's basically trying to get back with him, and oh my god, This is really good. I gave it 4 out of 5. But like at the end, I was just like, I. So the main character in this is pretty fucked up. Um, she's basically a stalker. Yeah, actually, she is a stalker. No, there's no basically about it. She's a stalker. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. It's weird because I enjoyed it, but like I wasn't like overall excited about the ending. Like the ending, I was like sitting there like, what the fuck just happened? Um, but yeah, it was good. But the ending was what brought it down to a 4, and it was a little slow in the middle. Because I was like, there was like a lot of like back story going on, which is kind of important, but at the same time, I was just like, please, like, I don't know. She's crazy, is what happened. Is she is just crazy. Like, I don't know. You have to read it. I don't want to like go into a whole lot of details because again, it's a thriller, so I feel like if I say too much, it'll give too much away. Next up is one that I read that everyone was loving, and that is The Wicked King by Holly Black. I gave this 4 out of 5. I feel like it was a little overhyped. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but how people made it sound like there was like a whole lot of sex in here, but I didn't really find that there was. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it was way more hyped than I felt it should be. Like it's obviously a good series, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next book. But like, yeah, I don't really know. It's just my friend really talked it up, and it just kind of fell a little short of my expectations, which is why it got a 4 out of 5. I think if I had read it like right after The Cruel Prince, like if I had read the two of them together or waited until the series came out, I would have enjoyed this a lot more. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. Just wasn't a 5 like I was expecting. So there's that. But yeah, it basically again picks up where the first book, The Cruel Prince, left off, and just Jude being Jude and Carden being an ass because that's just what he is. I don't know if I like Carden anymore. I was liking him at the end of The Cruel Prince, but I'm not sure I like him anymore in this. Like, I can't tell if he's just doing things to keep her safe or if he's just being an asshole, or I don't know what's going on. So maybe I'll like the next book more, but for this one, it's a 4 out of 5. Hopefully the next one will be better. The next book I read was one that I was really looking forward to reading, and I saved this for my 24-hour readathon, which I also read The Wicked King during my 24-hour readathon. So maybe it was just because I was really tired when I was reading it. I don't know. It's The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 and thought it was absolutely amazing. It is a very fast read. It follows Lael, who is in Auschwitz. He's a Jew in Auschwitz, and he tattoos people when they come in because someone decided to get him into that, so it kind of like keeps him safe somewhat. Safe in some ways, safe but not in other ways. So this is based on a true story, and I can't even imagine. Like, I can't even imagine. But it's a love story, and it was beautiful, and I cried. Just World War II fiction, and well, it's World War II fiction because it's a fictionalized based on a true story, like a true real relationship. So it was just so good, and like the ending was just wonderful. Um, but yeah, you got to read it because it's just good. Next up, I read The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden, and I gave that one a 4 out of 5. Wasn't quite as good as The Bear and the Nightingale, but I still really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read the next story, which I need to get the audiobook of it because I've been reading the audiobook of all of the series. So when I start a series one way, I usually like to continue it, continue it if I can. So I don't know if I will be able to continue it, but yeah. It just follows Vasilisa as she masquerades as a boy and then gets discovered not being a boy. But yeah, it was just really good and I really enjoyed it and can't wait for the next book. Oh, the next one was another audiobook, and that was Hounded by Kevin Hearn. It's the first book in the Iron Druid Chronicles, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it and want to continue that series because, you know, who wouldn't want to continue a series with an Irish main character who's a druid? I play a druid in WoW. I love druids and learning more about like their culture and just the history, and I just thought it was a great book and cannot wait to continue on with the series because I can't believe it took me so long to get to it. I loved Oberon, who's the dog, the main character's dog. He's an Irish Wolfhound. Main character Atticus, like I said, he's a druid and he has a connection with Oberon, so they can communicate mentally, and it was just great. Like, I love the dog. He's the best. And I can't wait to read more, like I said. Next up was a book that I was really excited for. It was one of my 5-star predictions, and that is Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. I gave this 4 out of 5. I think my expectations for Jay Kristoff are just too high now, maybe. But ending of this was just like not what I was hoping for, and yeah. So because of that, I did like lower my rating a little bit. But this follows Eve while she is trying to figure out what the heck is going on because she made a robot blow apart and die and just keel over, and that means she's a deviant with special powers, which means people are after her because they don't like deviants. But she also finds like a robot that is called a lifelike because it is very lifelike. Yeah, basically, unless you like know it's a lifelike, you don't know. But yeah, it was good. I was really happy to read this, but the ending was just like, oh my god, I wasn't expecting some of the stuff that happens, and then like how the actual like the very ending, I was just like, I don't know. But it was a little slow in some places, which is why I did get the 4. But I'm really excited to read the next book, Deviant, because I need it. Next up, I read The Fool's Fate, which was the 3rd book in the Tawny Man series. So it's the final book in that series by Robin Hobb. I give it a 5 out of 5. I absolutely loved it. I just love the Fool. I just love Fitz and the Fool, and this is just a great series overall. And I don't want to go into it because, like I said, it's the final book in the trilogy, 9th book in the series, and I just can't wait to continue on because I just love Robin Hobb's writing, and I'm just sad that it took me so long to find it. But yeah, it was a 5 out of 5. I listened to it on audio, like I listened to all my Robin Hobb on audio, and just really enjoyed it again. The next book that I read was Every Note Played by Lisa Genova. I gave this one also a 5 out of 5. This is a couple whose marriage has fallen apart. He is diagnosed with ALS. He is a world famous pianist, so you can imagine that's not the best thing for him. But yeah, he and his wife have divorced. They're both pianists, and they have a daughter who is in college. Basically, Karina, who is the wife, ends up taking him back home and helping care for him. Like they have care that comes in, home care that comes in, but they're not there all the time. So Richard, who is the man with ALS, you see like this huge, you just watch his life fall apart, and it was super emotional, and I could not stop listening to it, and I'm so glad that I read it. And I didn't understand like ALS very well. I know Stephen Hawking had it, obviously, because everyone knows that's basically why it's widely known. Um, but Lisa Genova put so much research into this. She talked to so many people who had ALS and like read their journals and stuff. And it gave me a really good insight into what he could possibly be thinking while he's, you know, losing control of his body, which is absolutely devastating. And is also interesting because like Karina was very mad at him and hated him, but she still took him back in because she still cared enough for him that she would look after him. But yeah, it's just an emotional book, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, I just really like Lisa Genova's books. They're always really emotional and just really good. And the final book that I read in the month of February is The Orphan's Tale by Pam Jenoff. This did not go where I thought it was going to go. This book starts off with like an old woman going into a train cart. She was an aerialist in the circus during, well, in like the European countries. So they traveled all throughout France and Germany and Russia and stuff like that. But like this is during World War II. There are two perspectives. There is a young girl. There's a young girl, Noah, who got pregnant at 16 and her parents like kicked her out. So she is working at a train station and she finds a train car full of Jewish babies. So she steals one that's alive still. Yeah, I just, it was not something I really. You done? Someone's having a nap and some bad dreams, apparently. But yeah, it just was not something I was. It's one of those things about the Holocaust that you don't really know a whole lot about, but you know it happened, but at the same time, like reading about it is just horrible. Anyways, she steals one of the babies and runs away and is found by this circus. The circus takes her in, and the other perspective is another, like, they take her in and train her as an aerialist to help her hide the baby because he's a Jew. And anyone, like, he's circumcised, so it's obvious he's a Jew. So the other point of view is from another aerialist who was from another circus, like her family had a circus, but they're Jewish, and obviously bad things came of that. So she's hiding with the circus as well, and it just shows the two of their points of view, and it was just such a good book. I did give it 4 out of 5 because it's a little slow in some parts, but I did not expect the ending that I got from this, is all I can say. So yeah, those are the 23 books that I read in the month of February. It was a crazy reading month for me, and I definitely could not have done it without the BookTube games. It is just so good. Most of the books I read were really enjoyable. I really liked a couple that were middle of the pack, and then one that was kind of disappointing. But overall, it was a great reading month. No, I did not finish Queen of Air and Darkness. Still reading it now. But yeah, hopefully I will finish that soon. Someday. Yeah, those are the books that I read in the month of February. Let me know down below what you read and how your reading month went, and I will see you guys later. Bye.